am just getting set up as today I have a special guest showing up. Her name is Megan, and I'm super excited. So just give her a second to join, and we will get started. She is going to be sharing her recovery story with us today, and I'm super excited to introduce her because we have been friends. We've been friends together, friends, for just over, I think, 2 years now. So just give her a quick second to jump on. All right, Megan has arrived. Can you hear me? Yes, I think I can hear you. Awesome. All right. So, Zoom, as one of its new and awesome moments of its just kind of getting bigger, doing its thing, it is already recording. So, I just opened up and let them know that you were joining me today because there was a few moments of silence, and I thought, well, I might as well just start off. And so I'm super excited that you are here with me today, Megan. We have known each other for, I think it's been just over 2 years now, actually. I think that sounds about right. Time is flying by. So, yes, let's jump into you sharing your recovery story and how you have just celebrated 100 days recovered. How does that
More
feel?
than that,
A
year.
year, not 100 days, a year.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, why don't you jump in and tell everyone a little bit about your story and what that looked like for you growing up as a, kind of get us into the beginning stages to your addiction. What happened? Kind of what evolved in that in the beginning story?
Sure. So I always feel it's a little bit important to talk about my upbringing because I feel like that really shaped me and I was constantly trying to escape from that. So I come from a family of alcoholics. My dad was an alcoholic. His dad was an alcoholic. My mom wasn't an alcoholic, but her mom was an alcoholic. And so I actually never saw either of my parents drink as a child, but it was always there. And so I was raised with my parents. They divorced at a very young age. I was a very young age. And I got sent to live with my mom. My brother and I lived with my mom growing up. And she moved on very quickly and grew up with my stepdad, who was very abusive. And my mom was also very, very emotionally, mentally, and verbally abusive. I didn't get as much of the physical abuse as my brother, but I saw some pretty horrific things from my brother taking the brunt of it. Um, So when I was about 12, I got sent to live with my dad because of the abuse. And by that time, there was a lot going on with me and I didn't know how to process things. I was also a very sensitive child, and I don't hold this against my parents, but they didn't know how to nurture it in the way that maybe I needed, right? So when I moved with my dad at 12, I began experimenting with drugs and alcohol. And by the time I was 14, 15, I would say that I was an alcoholic. And so my dad, who was at the time in recovery himself and sober, he had probably had about 19 years sobriety at the time. It was very frowned upon me living in the home and using. And so for about 3 years, I was constantly kicked out of the house or told, you need to go to rehab, and in order to come back home, you can't use anything. You can't even smoke weed. And for me at the time, I was like, well, I could quit drinking, but I can't. I still need to do something. And so for that period of my life, I was in and out of group homes. I was in and out of foster care because they would send me to rehab. And in order to come back home, or if I wanted to come back home, I had to abstain. And so at that time, I just thought I wanted to do what I wanted to do. So I chose a lot of the time to live in group homes, and then I could just do whatever I wanted. And so, I was just in and out. Nothing was really stable. I didn't have a great relationship with either of my parents at that time. I know that they were trying to get me on the right track, but I was just rebelling in every way I could. And then that's when I was about 16, 17 years old. I was at a party and ended up passing out. And this guy in his 20s literally carried me over his shoulders, took me to his home, and he raped me. And so that really shifted things for me because I felt like I deserved that. I felt like if I didn't get so drunk, that would never have happened. And so it just set this spiral for me of just using even more, using even harder drugs, and that carried on. I'd like to say that that was the first time and only time that happened, but it wasn't. It actually happened again at a party where I got drunk and passed out and was taken advantage of. And it was just this ripple of, self-hate, self-loathing. I should have known better. I shouldn't have done that. And so anyways, when I was in my 20s, I ended up meeting a boy. He was also an alcoholic, and we ended up getting sober together. So when I was about, 22, I went to AA and I got sober, and I was sober for 3 years. But I will say that my life was still completely chaotic. It was complete and utter chaos. And him and I were just very abusive towards one another. It was just very tumultuous. It was not the recovery that I have today, I'll say. And so, so I was sober. We ended up breaking up. I met another boy, and we dated for a couple of years. And we dated a couple of years, and I was sober overlapping both relationships. And when him and I broke up, I decided to get a bunch of drugs, and I just went off again. And I ended up going back out for 10 years. And in that time, I met who is my husband today. And when I first met him, I told him I was sober, just tried to control my drinking, and yeah, did that for a while. And it wasn't until him and I went traveling. We ended up going traveling around the world. And I went I was in Bali. And I ended up, so this was probably about 3 years ago or so, 4 years ago. I ended up going to Bali. And I was in a temple with a lady who channels a goddess called Kuan Yin. And I got this download, and the download, I heard it clear as day, and it said, all you have to do is not drink. And I knew from that point that that was like my deep calling. That was my soul. And so for 3 years after that time in the temple, I was trying to get sober. So I must add, I was also working in a winery, and that wasn't helping anything. But it really started to change things because my soul knew at the core level that I couldn't drink, and I didn't want to drink, but I also didn't really know how to stop. And so I would get, 2 months sober here, and then I would fall off the wagon. And then I'd get maybe 3 months and I'd fall off. And it was like that for literally 3 years. And then I started working with different plant medicines. And so I was working, and I was introduced to this medicine called Cambo while I was overseas. And so when I got back to Canada, I started working with this medicine called Cambo. And I eventually developed a relationship with it, and I started to want to be able to serve myself. And so I took the training. And this is like right at the end of when I finally made that decision to quit. And so I did my first level of the training. So it's, your level 1, and it allows you to serve yourself the medicine. So I was sober about a month or 2 before I did the training. Did the training, and after the training about 2 weeks, I fell off, and I fell off hard and bad. And I would say the last few years of my drinking and using, I was a binge drinker, binge user. So once I started, it was literally days. And by the end, I was going to work drunk. Like, it was not good. I was doing things that I said I would never do, driving drunk, different things like that. Drinking while I was at work. And being at a winery, it was just so accessible. So to go back, so I did this training, I did my level 1, and they refer to Cambo as the great revealer. So often Cambo can help peel back layers and just really show you things. And I attribute Cambo to really being a huge catalyst as to why things unraveled the way that they did. So I did my first level, and then I was about sober still for about 1 to 2 weeks, and then my whole world blew up in my face in the best way possible. But it was really a dark place. So after my world blew up, I basically went on a week-long bender. I went to work under the influence, lost my job for the second time. I had lost it probably 6 months prior to, but they had put me on a leave of absence. And so this was my second time losing my job at the winery. And It was the lowest I had ever been. I didn't know who I was. I couldn't look in the mirror and know who I was. I was disgusted at who I became, and I ended up going to Kamloops to spend some time with my aunt. And I drove from Kelowna to Kamloops wasted. And I was suicidal, and I was driving on the highway, and all I wanted to do was veer into the next lane. I just wanted to turn and just end it because I didn't understand why I was here and why I just couldn't get it. And I ended up going into Kamloops and literally laid on my aunt's couch for a week. Just literally did not move, laid there for a week, only got up to have a drink, and I hated my life. I hated who I'd become. I didn't want to live. I had no desire to live. And then something happened. I had remembered what my naturopath had said to me. She was saying that, there's a treatment center, and it subsidizes people, and I like to go there. So it's like at a real reduced cost. And so at the time, my husband and I, we were willing to pay whatever we needed to pay for me to get whatever help I needed to get. And so I ended up I called a bunch of different treatment centers, and they were all like $10,000. And I was just like, that is criminal. But I ended up remembering what my naturopath said. So I ended up calling the office, and she told me the name of the treatment center, which is Life Recovery in Abbotsford. And I ended up calling them, and I was able to get in the next week. And so I was like, holy shit, that happened really fast. I wasn't expecting that. Never thought I'd go to rehab as an adult. But I guess if I'm being completely honest, at the time, I just wanted to get away from my life. I didn't want to try and get sober and just face everything and the mess that I had made in Lake Country. I really just wanted to get away. And so I ended up going to treatment for 3 months in Abbotsford. And it was a Christian-based recovery center. And it was really interesting because people were like, how do you feel about that? Like, because I'd say that I'm more spiritual than I am religious. But I was so open to it. There was parts now that I definitely took and things that I left. But it was the best thing I ever did for myself. It was truly the biggest gift I could give myself. So I was gone for 3 months. My life was on hold, and I just went. And I basically got out in August, and I just started to I'm sorry, I think somebody's here with a package. And I think it's for me. I could see them, they're holding. I am so sorry.
That's
Do you
okay.
mind? Hey, just give me 1 minute.
That's life. Go get it. I know that there are so many interruptions in life, and we just have to sometimes keep the flow, keep life going. We have to keep going forward and not letting interruptions, just put a huge stop, and then we explode of like, oh, we're out of control. We can't control the moment. We can't control the package delivery. We can't control all of these things that happen in life because they're going to happen. Right?
Right?
And we just have to, you know what? It's fine. It's all good. That's life. That's us, living life. We're human.
Well, and it's so true. And I used to feel so guilty for that stuff. And it's like, it is what it is. I knew when they walked up, I'm like, I know that's for me. So where was I? Yeah. So I went to treatment and ended up coming home. And then from there, I really dived into the plant medicine world. So just working with Hape and Sanengha. And then I went and actually finished my Kambo training. So now I can facilitate Kambo and serve it to other people. And I was a little bit nervous at first to go and finish it because I knew how much my world got rocked, but it got rocked in the best way. It was exactly what needed to happen and how it happened. So the other thing too that I want to share is just that, being, I guess, like a healer and working with sound and doing meditations, when I was using, I was still doing those things. And I just remember how much I would beat myself up and be like, you're a fraud, like you're so inauthentic, and I hated that. I hated that. I knew that was like, by drinking and using, that was not Megan. And I just felt like I was caught in between two worlds. That's why I also feel like sharing my experience in Bali is so important, because I was there and I felt so alive and I felt like Megan. And when I literally heard that voice that all I needed to do was not drink, it wasn't in a way of like, that's all I need to do and I never need to do anything else again, right? Like, I still have work that I need to do, as I always will, right? But that for me was like, in order for me to really live this life and be who I'm meant to be, I cannot have this in my life. And so now that I'm sober, it's like I don't feel inauthentic. I don't beat myself up. I don't have that same story that I had when I was using. It's like, I'm pretty fucking authentic. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty real. I'm pretty authentic. And it's like, now I just look at things as like, I'm a human. And if I mess up, I'm a human, but I don't have the same self-talk that I had before, right? And so it's like, it's just shifted a lot of things. And just even, I can honestly share this. It's like, when I was drinking, I had so much anxiety and just so much highs and lows and just all the things. And once I quit drinking, I have not had anxiety. I have not dipped into lows. My moods are very consistent, and it's just like such a different place to be in. So I feel like I'm Megan, like I'm just a human living a human experience, and I'm not going to beat myself up over the things that I used to beat myself up over, I'm just living my life and doing the best that I can. So that's my story in like a nutshell.
Is there anything that, like, you talk about when in active addiction, and I think this goes for, I mean, so many people out there, um we our self-talk is so negative. We constantly are telling ourselves like, oh, even just saying like, I drank too much last night, I won't do it again, right? Like, those connections, those pieces that we are constantly, like, we narrate our own lives in our head, in our thoughts, in our actions. Everything that we're thinking, we're doing, we're there's so many different parts and pieces to it. But where was your shift from the negative talk into the other, the positive, to letting go, to releasing and not holding on to the weight of that, that negative thought process that so many people live in?
Yeah, there's actually a couple things. So the one was when I went to treatment. So most of the people that run the treatment center, they had been in that facility themselves. So, and they were some of the most beautiful people. And something happened to me when I was in treatment where I just realized, like, I'm just a human. Like, we're all just doing the best we can. And then it was just like, I don't have to beat myself up. Like, and then it was like, Megan, make sure Megan's happy. My husband's never going to make sure I'm happy. Like, of course he's going to do things and, try to please me and, and he enhances my life, but I can't look to him and think that he's going to make me happy. The drugs and alcohol never made me happy. It literally comes from me. I need to be my own best friend and tell myself how awesome I am, and I do think like I did have my challenges with that as well, like just coming from a home where I was literally told that I was stupid every day and told I was never going to amount to nothing. And so even to this day, I still have those challenges of like, no, Megs, you are smart. Like, no, Megs, you can do this. Like, okay, yeah, it's so that in and of itself has been a journey, but just realizing that it's only going to come from me. It's people can say like, oh, Megs, you're great, you're awesome, you're this, you're that, but if I don't believe it, it literally means nothing.
Isn't it funny how it's like you almost I want to say reflect it, but deflect it, kind of like in a sense of like people can tell you things, and when people used to tell me, maybe this was about 4 years ago or so, and they would give me compliments. And it would make me feel embarrassed. It would make me feel shy. And I would go inwards and just start to actually like so much else would come up with that because I wasn't able to hear it. I wasn't able to accept that somebody else is calling me smart or pretty or whatever those, or even the words I love you, like from my boyfriend that I have right now. Um, the word love was used in a very negative way in my past relationships, in my family, in so many other ways that when somebody actually truly told me that they loved me, I had no, I had to learn how to love somebody. And I had to learn how to love myself. But until I could love me, I couldn't love somebody else, right? And I think we try and do a lot of things backwards. We think that if I love that person or if I love this, cat or dog or child or something, then I'll find love here. And it doesn't work that way. I think a lot of times we do a lot of things upside down or backwards when it comes
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
anything.
it basically has to come from within. And there was a light bulb. And I met, like I said, I met so many awesome people. And they're just as messed up as me, but they're perfect and they're beautiful and I love them. So what makes me so different that I'm not lovable because of things that I've been through, right? And then the other thing I just want to share is, and it's something that, you shared with me. It's like our trauma, make friends with your trauma. Like, don't look at trauma as it's such a negative thing. Like, you would not be who you are if you didn't go through the trauma that you went through. And, when you shared that with me, it was a light bulb. And that was what, like 4 months ago. So, we all have trauma. Everybody has trauma in some way or another. And it's just, what for me now, it's like, what do I want to do with that? Do I want to keep being a victim because of it, or do I want to start talking about it and hopefully help somebody, and live in just like strength, truth, not living in shadow and self and victim and blame and da 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 da, right? Like, be empowered because of it. Like, it made me who I am.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of trauma itself, brings up a lot of negative, and I've flipped it into being like, I mean, like you said, we all have trauma, but if you look at it as a positive, as in, if I didn't go through, whether it was a rape or, child molestation or beatings or anything or bullying or, I mean, you name it, anything can fall into that. Mental, physical, emotional abuse, anything along those lines, whether it's from teachers, parents, friends, anything. Those are our traumas, and those are also our strengths and our building blocks. And I like to use those as, this is who you are now, and you wouldn't be here sharing your story, empowering all these other beautiful people without those trauma building blocks, right? And we have to look at those as a different way of connecting with them, be in a relationship with them, and try not to ignore them and push them away and shut them out, right? We want to welcome them into our life. It's a part of our existence, but it doesn't have to be who we are forever either, right? We can change. We have the option to change who we are becoming and what we can do from that and what difference we can make.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, when we're so focused on our trauma, I feel like we're giving our power away. It's like, yes, it happened, but I can't change it. So what can I do with it right now, right?
Hmm. And I think also like pulling out the little pieces sometimes, whatever your trauma might be, can be little things about, maybe if you have children later on, what not to do in those pieces, or maybe it's somebody else that you can help who's gone through something similar, or maybe it's something like there's always little pieces in there that are the little light bulbs and the little pieces of strength that we can then share with others so that, we don't repeat the same things, we don't do the same things, and we don't harm more people out there. It's about the community, the holistic community I have found, and I know that you're a part of, because you're actually a huge part to why I'm doing what I'm doing as well. The sound baths that you used to put on in Lake Country were a huge reason to why I started doing what I was doing what I am doing. But those are the holistic community itself is growing, and it is focused on love. It's focused on healing. It's focused on not, it's about healing yourself together. It's
Mhm.
about coming as a community together and being one with each other. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about it. And that's what I am drawn to it so much, is because I struggled with a lot of other things. And it's a place where I can feel at home and welcomed and loved, which gave me a sense of belonging and really exciting part to movement to be a part of, I guess I want to say.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. I guess too, like I just realized that we're all perfectly imperfect. And
Hmm.
that we're like, and I mean this like with the most love, but we're all messed up. And it's all okay, like it's all good. I don't know, that it's just everything has shifted now. And yeah, I'd say like my biggest takeaways is just I love myself today and I tell myself good things. Like when I do something and I'm proud of it, taking that time to actually, I physically pat myself on the back and go, good job, Max. Like you did good, kid.
I do the yes. Yes.
And a big one too is just saying thank you. I say thank you a lot and I give a lot of gratitude. Living in gratitude is a huge one. I call it
Hmm.
the attitude of gratitude and just being grateful for everything, even things that suck.
Yes. Yes. There's always a lesson and there's always growth in the uncomfortable positions. We actually thrive the most in, actually, is where I love to be. So this has been wonderful. I'm so happy that you hit your year mark and you wanted to share your story with everyone. And I'm excited to see what comes next for you. I know you'll be back in town July 7th for one of your sound bath healings, and we're going to do that together. I'm so excited to be putting that on with you. And I'll let everyone know some more information as we come forward, get closer to that July 7th date. And I'm just excited to see where your journey goes and this new you, the new you that you're, loving yourself and showing up for yourself and just being you. And it's beautiful. I've loved to see, I remember parts and pieces of your story because I was there for parts and pieces of your story. So it's just it means the world to me that you showed up today. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, likewise, I definitely am excited for the things that you're doing. And yeah, it was an honor for me to share. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will end the call. And if anyone wants to reach out to myself and or Megan, if you have questions or anything to do with holistic healing, plant medicine, Reiki, recovery, you name it, we're always open to having a chat. So send us a message, and I'll put all the details in the comments and or description.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.